It's 5 a.m. in Kita Shinagawa, Tokyo, and I am making my way towards the airport. One of the things I've always been interested in is trying to find the most ambitious day trip from Tokyo, trying to see what that is. Also at the airport they had this Pokemon merchandise vending machine in case you can't stop at the Pokemon store there. I thought about getting something but didn't want to carry it around all day. We get a quick glimpse of where I am, also a quick glimpse of this owl, little shot of the cute animals on this bottom of the welcome poster, but I am actually in Sapporo, Hokkaido. This is in the Sapporo station. I just really like this artwork. But Sapporo is the fifth biggest city in Japan. Hokkaido is the island in the north of Japan, that big island, considered slightly like the Alaska of Japan. And my first stop of the day was Odori Park. Odori Park is kind of like the big central park in the middle of Sapporo. Because Sapporo is fairly young, started getting developed in like the 1870s, it's much more planned and laid out than places like Tokyo or Kyoto. You can see Sapporo TV Tower there in the background. This is kind of the iconic landmark of Odori Park and one of the iconic landmarks of Sapporo. Here's another shot of the TV tower, but I'm more just trying to get a picture of this guy breakdancing here. This is the Sapporo Clock Tower. This is originally part of the Hokkaido Agricultural College, which became Hokkaido University, which has moved to a different spot, but it was built with the help of Americans, so it has much more Western design. It's actually the oldest clock tower in Japan. Also, I'm trying to do this fancy shot where I transition from the flower to the clock tower, and I did it. Probably not great that I'm so happy about it, but I thought it was neat. This is a sweets buffet. I didn't stop there, but I was like, oh man, should I stop at the sweets buffet? How dangerous would that be for me? Going through the city, I ran into this kind of neat old building. I had to look up what it was. It's called the Akino Shoten Pharmacy, and it's been a pharmacy that's been open and operational since 1901. I just think it's a neat little thing that they kept this whole time. Here's a Shotengai. I came across a shopping street. A lot of shopping streets in Hokkaido because it gets so snowy, try and keep things indoors. There's another music shop. You can see the guitars in there a little bit. And I was like, that'll be dangerous if I go in there. Speaking of dangerous, there's taxidermy bears. Something you probably only see in Hokkaido. Taxidermy bears. This is also dangerous. This is where they kept all the kind of anime-related stores, and I probably spent too much money here. Not on these kind of collections of Haruhi and K-On! Figures. I wanted to get them, though. Also, the iconic trams around Sapporo. And this is probably the most famous shopping street in the city, Tanuki Koji. I'm gonna pop in there in a second. Warning for the flashing lights. I think that's just my camera making them flashing like that. A lot of different kind of touristy trap stores. Also, they had their own mascot standing in front of some cherry blossoms because it's still kind of cherry blossom season in Hokkaido. Here's an old traditional Tanuki in front of a Tanuki named store. Before moving on to my next stop, I actually stopped back at Odori Park just to take a bit of a break. I ended up walking like 34,000 steps today, and it was such a nice day. It was like 6 degrees and breezy but sunny. But my next stop was actually on the opposite side of Sapporo Station where it's a bit less crowded, and that is, if you can see here, the Hokkaido University. I wasn't here just to, have fun, although I did see the policy school, which are my people, and of course, it's in the most bland building imaginable. For whatever reason, they tend to put like humanities buildings, like just in really bland spots, but it's across from the Hokkaido University Museum, which had a nice building. This is William S. Clark. He's an American. He was the founder of the Sapporo Agricultural College. This is his famous catchphrase. They also had this big, I don't know if it's taxidermied or plush polar bear. It's like the first thing you see, but I do love this "Please don't touch the teddy bear" sign that they have in front of it. But the museum houses basically a little section for each department of the university. So a lot of them aren't super interesting. This one is, though, where it's going over, the Far East Russian communities, the sociology department. Here's one looking at a bunch of the different fish around Hokkaido, including this one here that just looks absolutely terrifying. More interesting things. Here's a skeleton of a beaver. There's a skeleton of a tanuki. And they're right next to the skeleton of a lion. I actually forget the name of this department. I think it's a biology department. I don't know. I think it had a more specific name. Giant Japanese salamander skeleton. They also had a bunch of like, again, don't know if they're taxidermied or just realistic plushes, just kind of like hidden around in spots that I feel like would be quite weird to encounter. Just like if you're walking through this place at night and you stumble across like this bear popping out, also this deer checking out what's going on in the background. Couple prehistoric crocodile skeletons. They did have a dinosaur section, but I figured we got enough dinosaurs. But this is a real centerpiece coming around this corner, and it's a giant woolly mammoth. This one I'm fairly certain is not taxidermied. And this is kind of like the thing that actually drew me in. I just saw like it on an ad on Google, and I was like, "That's really cool." It's actually kind of intimidating when you get to it. I know that sounds silly for what is a giant stuffed animal, but standing around it was like, this is actually pretty weird. Probably because of this eye staring at you the whole time. But I think it was really neat having this mammoth there. Also, in one of the offices nearby, they had this like humanoid sculpture that was kind of terrifying. Also, why are its hands so big? From Sapporo, I actually decided to take a train to another part of Hokkaido, trying to see as much of the region as I can in my one day. Beautiful mountains. I have to see some of the train, but also beautiful sea, because I am heading towards the town of Otaru. Otaru is a coast town that at one point was as big as Sapporo. Also, I just liked how there was kind of like stuff for the baseball team everywhere. I like when they have that kind of like cultural aspect. Here's just outside the station in Otaru. It's really a lovely city. It's also like, again, like 55 degrees because it's right on the water, very breezy. It got cloudy, so it was a little cooler, but I kind of needed that after this trip's been pretty hot. Shot from the overpass, and a different TV tower in the background. I do this spin around. There's like little kids here. One of them's gonna duck out of the way to avoid. Nice little kids. Also, had this specific like Hokkaido Coke vending machine with a bunch of different like icons, like the clock tower and a sculpture of William S. Clark. Of course, I got one. Also, there was the Shoten guy that looked mostly closed, but was playing anime music, so I had to stop. The town itself was like really lovely. It's a bit touristy. It reminds me of like a more kind of upscale, historic, touristy beach town, kind of like Lewis, Delaware, if you know what that is. This was actually the first train line in Hokkaido, going from the port in Otaru into Sapporo, and also taking people to and from. This building, I stopped and thought it had like Yoda on the top of it, but no, it's just a terrifying gargoyle on the top of this, I think, karaoke place. This is the more kind of section closer to the water. This is the canal, what they refer to as the warehouse district, obviously because you see all these warehouses. You could also ride a gondola up and down the canal, but I did not. These warehouses have been here for 100 to 125 years. They look real old, but they're all like renovated inside and have a bunch of like trendy restaurants and stuff like that. One of the main stopping points. This is a manhole cover with an otter. I gotta zoom in so you can see there's the mama otter holding a baby otter on its belly. Also, a lot of stuff for like tax-free shopping. That's how you know it's kind of touristy. But if you ever wanted a full-scale model of the Venus de Milo, you can get it tax-free in Otaru. This building looks like a lighthouse, but is not, because if you can't tell, it's right in the middle of town, and you can't really see the water from it. But it is kind of like a landmark of Otaru. I also really liked like the fish ornamentation on the building. I don't know why I liked it so much. But you can also see the last cherry blossoms of the year slowly dying. But these are the last places that will get cherry blossoms in Japan. This is the main street in Otaru. It's not the biggest town in the world, but this is kind of like the main touristy drag. Still a bunch of like old historic buildings that have been there for 100 plus years. A lot of them have different shops in it. This one had Santa on the side. I think it's just a restaurant, but I also love the building right next door also has a mask, and it's a Tengu. This is the lighthouse for the town of Otaru, which is also still kind of too far from the ocean to be super useful. And is that Hello Kitty over there? I looked closer. It was Hello Kitty. It's a Hello Kitty cafe. This is a very touristy place. This is one of the big tourist destinations, the steam clock in Otaru. The clock is powered by steam. You can't really see it there, but if you wait a second, every 15 minutes, you get a big puff of steam, which I did not know, or I would have stood closer for it. Here's a painted manhole cover, kind of highlighting the historic nature of Otaru. Here's a section of canal that's been like done up, it's slightly fancier. And here's an Australian wine place with a cute little koala on it, even though that is a British flag behind it. Making my way back to Sapporo, loving the sunset as it slowly comes down over the mountains. There's one more place I want to see in Sapporo before I head back to the airport. And we see the tram pulling it into frame, and it is Susukino. Susukino is kind of the main nightlife and entertainment district of Sapporo, similar to like Dotonbori in Osaka or Shinjuku in Tokyo. And it has these kind of iconic signs like the Nika whiskey sign. I wanted to get a shot of it like at night, all lit up, but because of when my plane left, I wouldn't get a chance to do that, and there's stuff I needed to do at the airport. But seeing it here at night was still really cool. Also, taking the train back, there's so much room on these trains. I don't know, I've got so used to planes where you get like no room. The fact that I had like massive leg room was really nice for these kind of like 45-ish minute train rides. At the airport, they had a Pokemon store with an official exclusive new Chitose Airport Pikachu pilot and air stewardess, so I had to get them. Also stumbled across this giant Coca-Cola bear shaped like a Hokkaido bear. Not sponsored, I just love this so much. I also stopped at Garaku, which is a soup curry place. Soup curry is similar to traditional Japanese curry, but it's more soup-like, as the name says. This place has a main store downtown, but it was super crowded, so I was like, I know they have one at the airport, so I'll come here. You could see it in there, pull it a little closer. You can see the different ingredients, the bacon, the sausage, the vegetables, there's a slice of cheese on top. Really good. I think it helped pull out the flavor of the curry a little bit more. It was rainy while I got back to Tokyo. It's also like 11 o'clock, so it's not super busy, but the town outside my Airbnb looked really nice with these kind of like little vertical lights off to the side. And that was my long day in Sapporo.